Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Good. Very good. I hope you're able to use these meditations to prepare yourself for this class. The subject matter is extraordinary, and if we approach it with a very worldly kind of mind and attitude, we'll lose so much. So the purpose of that meditation is to help us shift gears, so to speak, and prepare ourselves for this very important subject matter. We've come actually towards the end now of the Isha Upanishad. And just to make some connection, in a prior class, we saw a series of sequence of 6 verses which talked about various forms of Vedic rituals, Vedic meditations, which we might call upasana. And these rituals and meditations had a very particular end in mind, and it was acquiring spiritual power and punya karma. Spiritual power to help you in this life and the next. Punya karma, good karma, to achieve some heavenly life after this death. And of course, all of that was given with some criticism, very surprising criticism by the rishi from whom we receive this Upanishad. He said, all of this is darkness. Leads to blinding darkness, he says. Blinding darkness because the acquisition of any kind of spiritual power or even the attainment of some kind of heavenly realm is considered not the ultimate aim of spiritual life, not the ultimate goal of life at all. The ultimate goal of life being moksha, liberation. Anything short of moksha or liberation is missing the mark by a wide margin. And very surprisingly, the rishi Okay, back in shape. All right. So, to pick up our thread, actually, we'll let Sri Shankaracharya, in his commentary, he makes some very nice comments at this point. This is a transition into the final section of the text. The final section, beginning with this verse 15, is some closing prayers, and a very different kind of prayer. And Shankara introduces it by reflecting on the forms of ritual and meditation that we've just discussed. And he says, Etavati samsara gatihi. That's shocking. He said these prayers and these meditations and rituals just described in the prior section of the class, these are samsaric. These leave you trapped in worldly life. Even going to heaven leaves you trapped in worldly life, even becoming like the gods. A prior statement says, Amritam bhavati, you become immortal. You become immortal like the gods, like Indra. How immortal? Indra is immortal, correct? Immortal means Indra was created as king of the gods with the beginning of this kalpa, this cycle of creation. And Indra then reigns as king of heaven throughout this cycle of creation. And when we finally reach pralaya, the end of the cycle of creation, not only does creation go away, but the heavens go away, and all the deities in those, devatas I should say, in those heavenly realms go away, including Indra. Indra's realm comes to an end. So he's immortal in a sense that he doesn't come and go in this cycle of creation, But that's not the ultimate form of immortality. The ultimate form of immortality is being non-separate from Brahman, utterly free from rebirth. So that's why Sri Shankara here says, etavati samsara gatihi. These forms of meditation and ritual leave you stuck in worldly life. Ataha param, but there's something beyond. What is it? Purvoktam, which was described before. Atma eva abhut vijanataha. One who knows my true nature is Atma, which is non-separate from Brahman. Iti sarvatma bhavaha. We had a discussion about sarvatma bhava. One who recognizes one's non-separation, utter non-separation from Brahman, the truth of all. So one who recognizes that, sarveshana sannyasat, through the total renunciation of all worldly activities, jnana nishtha phalam, and one gains this fruit of being established in wisdom, being established, jnana nishtha, being established in the truth of your nature being non-separate from Brahman. This is the ultimate goal. This is moksha. But those prior verses talked about gaining immortality, and Shankara continues, tatra kena margena amritatvam ashnute. He says, but then how is it? By what means? Kena margena. By what path? By what means can one gain immortality? Well, you can gain immortality like Indra. We'll see how. And is there, and let's put this as a question that we'll answer later in the text, is there any possibility of gaining moksha through ritual and meditation? Now, we're going to leave that as a dangling question. Bear in mind, Sri Shankara and others say, jnanameva mokshaha. The only way you gain moksha is through jnanam, spiritual wisdom, discovery of your non-separation from Brahman. But there are some who talk about krama mukti. You may not have heard that expression. We're going to discuss it when it comes in the text. So we're going to explore the immortality gained through the rituals and meditation. Is it the kind of immortality that Indra enjoys? That is, you get to be immortal as long as the universe exists? Or is it the ultimate immortality that the rishis called moksha? So we'll get into that discussion as we proceed with these verses. So what we see here at the end of the text, a series of verses comprising a prayer recited by one who has devoted his or her life to prayer, meditation, and rituals. That is, someone who has, way back in the beginning of the text, we've said that those who renounce worldly activities can reach the highest. This is a person who has not renounced worldly activities. This is a person who has devoted himself or herself to ritual and meditation for the sake of reaching these heavenly realms. And what we see here is a prayer which apparently is recited by this person at the very end of life. And you'll see the reference to that in a couple of verses. So this is a prayer by the one who has conducted rituals and meditations their whole life for the sake of reaching heaven. This is their dying prayer, as it were. Repeat after me. Hiranyamaye patrehena Hiranyamaye patrena Satyasyapihitam mukham Satyasyapihitam mukham Tattvam puhushana pavranu Tattvam puhushana pavranu Satyadharmaya drishtaye Satyadharmaya drishtaye. So he prays to Pushan, you see in the second line. Pushan is an ancient name for Surya. God is a form of sun. Pushan literally means one who nourishes. And sun is the nourisher of all. Because of the sun, we all exist. Because of the sun, the crops grow and we are nourished. So, Pushan, a Vedic name for sun. So this prayer is addressed to God in the form of sun. It's a very interesting prayer. It begins. The first part of this prayer is to God in the form of sun. Later, Agni will also be addressed, but first we start with Surya, sun. Hiranyamayena patrena satyasya apihitam mukham. Satyasya mukham. The mukha, the face of... This is poetry. This whole last section is very poetic. Of course, the whole Upanishad is poetic, but this last section particularly. Satyasya mukham, the face of truth. The face of truth. He's praying to the sun, to that shining orb. Of course, recognizing that God is not a ball of glowing gas in the sky, but nevertheless, praying to Pushan, addressing God in the form of sun. Satyasya mukham, the face of truth, is apahitam, covered, obscured. Obscured by what? Looking at the sun, what could possibly be obscured? It shines brightly. Well, it's actually the shining that obscures. Hiranyamayena patrena. Patra here means some kind of, not vessel, but almost disc. The disc, which is Hiranmaya, shining. The shining disc. So looking at the sun, actually, if you look at the sun, you get it real quickly. You're blinded by that shining disc. Hiranmaya patra. By that shining disc, you are blinded. Therefore, satyasya mukham, the face of truth, the truth of the sun is apahitam. It's obscured. It's hidden by you. It's so bright. The brightness overwhelms your sight, and you're not able to penetrate and discover the truth of the sun. How's that for poetry? I love this. Tattvam pushan apavranu. Tvam pushan, O sun, tat apavranu. Please remove that. Please remove that shining disc. Why? Satya dharmaya drishtaye. So that I may see, so that I may discover Satya Dharma, so that I may discover the essential nature of you, sun. O sun, I'll paraphrase this a little poetically. O sun, I am blinded by your shining disc. It's covering up your truth. Please remove that shining disc so that I may discover your truth. So this is the prayer of the one engaged in meditation and ritual. Notice that meditation and ritual have not led this person to discover Brahman, the truth because of which the sun exists. This is a prayer for knowledge of Brahman. He wants to know Satyasya Mukham. He wants to discover that face of truth, the reality because of which the sun exists, the reality because of which everything exists. So it's a prayer for Brahma Jnanam, for knowledge of Brahman. And he prays this because at the end of his life, he has not yet discovered Brahman in spite of a life of meditation and ritual. His prayer continues. Pushan he karshe, Pushan he karshe, Yamasurya Yamasurya Prajapatya, Yama Surya Prajapatya Vyuhu Harashmin Samuhu Hatejaha Pushan, O sun, Ekarshe. These are all terms of address. They're all in the vocative case. Pushan, O sun, O nourisher. Ekarshe, the one who rishati goes, eka, alone. The one who, what poetry? The one who goes alone. The one who travels through the sky unaccompanied by any other shining body. Eka, rishati, the one who goes alone. Yama. Now, Yama doesn't only mean god of death. Yama is one who controls. So here, Pushan, sun, is addressed as the controller of the sky and of the solar system. Surya, O sun. Prajapatya, O son of Prajapati. In Hindu mythology, from Prajapati come all these deities, including Surya. Prajapatya means one who comes from Prajapati. So he prays, Pushan, O sun, O controller, O one who travels alone through the sky. Vyuha Rashmin. Vyuha, withdraw. Rashmin, your rays. Withdraw your rays. He complained in the prior verse. He couldn't see. He was blinded looking at the sun. So now he prays, Vyuha Rashmin, withdraw your rays. Samuha Tejaha, withdraw your brightness. Collect your brightness so that I won't be blinded, so that I may see. That's the first half of the verse. The second half of the verse continues. Yatte rupam kalyahanatamam tatte pashyami yosavasau purusha sohamasmi. So why does he want sun to withdraw its blinding rays? Tatte pashyami. So that te, you, your truth, pashyami, so that I might see. So that I might see something of yours. What? Yat te rupam, your form. Your true form. When you look up at the sky, you see that blinding disk. You do not perceive the reality because of which sun exists. The reality because of which the celestial body sun exists. The reality because of which the deity, Surya, exists. That Brahman is not perceived. That is the figuratively called here te rupam. Your form here meaning your essential nature. Tat te rupam, that which is your form. Kalyana tamam, that which is most blessed, most sacred, most auspicious. Kalyana tamam, that which is most auspicious and that which is the greatest blessing. Te rupam, your form. Pashyami, so that I may see. Withdraw your rays so that I may see your true form, the truth of who you are. Yaha asau purushaha. For our Sanskrit students, you might recognize some nice sandhis there. Yaha asau purushaha. So saha aham asmi. Yaha asau, that which is, asau purushaha, that being. Purusha here is a word that's commonly used in Vedic terminology as a supreme being. ultimately referring to Brahman, the reality because of which everything exists. Asau Purushaha, that supreme being, that reality, Yaha Asau, that which is that supreme being, Saha Aham Asmi. Saha, that supreme being, Aham Asmi, I am that supreme being. At least he has been told that. This person is not yet enlightened. This is a prayer of one seeking Brahmajnanam, seeking to know the truth of the sun. So he's not yet enlightened, but he's been told, he's read, or he's learned in Vedas, that the truth of the sun is the truth of me. Watch this. The truth of the sun is the truth of me, but if he can't see the truth of the sun, he can't see the truth of himself either. Just as the truth of the sun is obscured by all those shining rays, the truth of oneself is obscured, in this case, by ignorance. Truth of the sun, obscured by shining rays. Truth of oneself, obscured by ignorance. So this is a very poetic way of praying for Brahmajnanam. So just as he prays that the truth of the sun be discovered by the removal of the rays that obscure the truth of the sun, the corollary prayer, which it's not actually said, it's suggested, that he will discover the truth of himself when the ignorance which obscures the truth of himself is removed. So when he says, I am that Purusha, I am that supreme being, I am that Brahman, this is what he wants to discover. He knows it intellectually. He is yet to discover it because he cannot yet see the truth of the sun. All right. And his prayer continues. I mentioned that it was a prayer recited at the end of his life, and now it'll become very clear that it's a prayer recited at the end of his life. You'll see that in this coming verse. Vayuranilam amritam, Vayuranilam amritam, Atedam bhasmahantagam shariram, Atedam bhasmahantagam shariram, Om krato smara kritagam smara, Om krato smara kritagam smara, Krato smara kritagam smara, Krato smara kritagam smara. So his prayer continues, and it's, again, still very, very poetic. Poetic means rather obscure. So we have to be ready to try to understand the meaning. Of course, with the help of this commentary, we can understand quite clearly. So he begins his prayer, Vayuhu anilam amritam. They're just words. When you Vayu, air, anilam, air, amritam, immortal. There's actually a lot of meaning in those three words when they're understood correctly. The fact that Vayu and Anila are used separately means they're talking about separate things. In this case, Vayu means prana. That's why we have commentaries. The commentator will make it very clear. Vayu means prana, your life force, this person's life force. Anila means the cosmic prana, the collective prana, the energy of the cosmos, so to speak. Prana is your individual life force. Here, Anila represents the cosmic life force. And we know that because it is Amrita, it is immortal. So we're comparing here, I guess of technical Vedantic terms, are Samashti and Vyashti. Vyashti, the individual prana, here called Vayu, and anilam amritam, the immortal wind, as it were, referring to the samashti, the total. And this is a prayer, and to add the words, and this is how Sri Shankara explains it, to add the necessary words, he's praying, may my individual prana merge with the universal prana. After all, what happens when you die? That which, in fact, it's almost science. It is science. This is actually pure science. Your body right now is almost 100 degrees of temperature. A lot of energy in your body. When you die, your body grows cold. Where does that energy go? Out into the universe. The energy which is part of the universal energy, but it's in your body making you alive, that prana, when you die, that energy will leave your body and merge with the universal prana, the universal life force or energy. So that's what that first expression means. Vayuhu anilam amritam. He prays, may my vayu, may my individual prana, anilam amritam, merge with the eternal cosmic prana. Ata, then, idam, this one, this what? Idam shariram, this physical body. So first he was praying about his subtle body, now his stula sharira, his physical body. So the prayer, idam shariram, this physical body, bhasma antam. You can figure that out. May this physical body be reduced to ashes. But you only pray this at the end of your life, right? You usually don't pray this earlier. May my life force merge with the universe. May my body be reduced to ashes. Clearly, this is a prayer recited at the end of his life. And it continues. Om, and this is also obscure. Om. So Om because it's prayer. You don't find Om if it's not a prayer, right? Om is not a word. Om is an invocation. So when you see Om, you know you're reading a prayer. Om krato is addressing, krato is a term of address, addressing kratu. Now kratu has several meanings. Here it refers to mental faculties. Loosely speaking, mind. So krato could be translated, O mind. Krato, hey kratu, O mind. Smara, remember. Remember what? Kratam, remember that which was done. Smara krato, remember, O mind. Smara kratam, remember that which was done. Smara. Notice repetition. Repetition in prose is considered a defect. Repetition in poetry, of course, is beautiful. So he addresses his mind, Om krato smara, kritagam smara, krato smara, kritagam smara. O mind, remember my actions. In what sense remember? You have to picture it. Here is a person who has done an immense number of rituals and meditations throughout his life. And with that tremendous effort, he's accumulated a tremendous amount of punya karma. Punya karma which can bless him incredibly in his next life. So here he's saying a prayer. He says, may that punya karma not be forgotten. He wants to make sure he takes it with him. So he's telling his mind, the mind, part of the sukshma sharira, that which will travel to the next life, He's telling his mind, hey, come on, you're going to travel to the next life. Make sure you hold on to all that punya karma. It's like when you're traveling. You get on a plane, you get on a train, you make sure that you don't leave your baggage behind. You make sure that you keep it with you so that it's with you when you travel. So here he's addressing his mind. O mind, remember all that I have done, which means hold on to all the punya karma I have accumulated through my life of rituals and meditations so that I may be blessed with it in my next life. So this is the next part of his prayer. Now we come to the last verse, and we'll get into a much bigger discussion in the next verse. All right. It's in two parts. Here's the first part of the last verse. Agne naya supataharaye hasman supataharaye hasman vishwahani veda vayunahani vidwan Vayunahani vidwan. Agne. Now he's addressing Agni. Previously, Pushan, O sun. Now, Agne, O Agni. Why is he invoking Agni? Well, what is going to be offered? Body. His body is going to be offered to what? Agni. So he is now praying to or invoking Agni, specifically the fire into which his body will be offered at the time of death. So he prays, Agne, O Agni, Naya Asman, lead us. I think this us is kind of the royal we. Lead me. It says lead us, but it really means lead me. Lead me, Raye. Lead me, Raye. Raye is not a common word except in its meaning of Rayaha as king. So here Shankara glosses it. He says, Dhanaya. Lead me unto wealth. What kind of wealth? Karma pala bhogaya, Shankara says. Lead me unto the wealth which I will get as a result of my accumulated good karmas. Very practical. Maybe he was a businessman in his life, we don't know. But in his mind, through his intense commitment to the performance of ritual and meditation, he's accumulated so much good karma, he wants to make sure that he gathers all that with him and takes it with him to his next life. So he prays, Agne, O Agni, Naya Asman, lead me, Raye, Karma Pala Bhogaya. Lead me in such a way that I will enjoy the fruits of all of those good karmas done in this life. Lead me how? And this is where we get into some discussion. Lead me supata. Lead me by the good path. Good path. What kind of path are we talking about? This is a reference. Let me find the commentary on this. Many of you are familiar with the concept of, at the time of death, there are two paths, Uttarayana, Dakshinayana. This is a reference. So he says, Supata iti Visheshanam Dakshina Marga Nivrityartam. Shri Shankara says, lead me by the good path. In particular, Visheshana. In particular, lead me by the path which avoids Dakshina Marga, the south-going path. Lead me in a direction that avoids the southernmost path, Dakshinayana. This is some of Hindu mythology. And I'll call it mythology. I think it deserves to be called mythology. It is believed that when you die, you go in along one of two paths, the Uttarayana, the northern path, and the Dakshinayana, the southern path, and the Dakshinayana is said to lead you to lower births. The best possibility of Dakshinayana is birth in Pitraloka, the land, the realm of the ancestors, in which case you live in that realm for one lifetime and then you get reborn into some other situation. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, I guess, birth as a cockroach or who knows what. That's what you get by Dakshinayana, the southern path. Then there is a Uttarayana, a northern path. A northern path can get you to some heavenly realm, some loka, some kind of swarga. And the best case scenario is reaching Brahmaloka, considered the highest heaven. We're going to come back and talk about that in just a moment. When we talk about mythology, we see a lot of mythology related to, for example, when you die. So if you die while the sun is in the northern part of the hemisphere, then you're said to travel that Uttarayana. If you die at the wrong time of year, terrible. Finished. And the story goes, that's why Bhishma laid in pain on that bed of arrows so long. He was holding out because he wanted to die during Uttarayana. This, I think, we can safely call mythology. Mythology means a set of ancient beliefs. You can accept them, you need not accept them. But we should at least understand what they were. So here, our very pious person is praying that he should go by the supata, by the good path, avoiding the southern path, going by the northern path. And now we're ready to answer that question. So by going to the northern path, he might go to some kind of swarga. And remember that our concept of heaven is not one of, like in the biblical tradition, you go to eternal heaven or eternal hell. And in the Hindu tradition, we don't have the equivalent concepts. The maximum, well, we said before, eternal in the sense that as long as the universe exists, eternal like that. So you can go to heaven. You can go to heaven for a finite time. You can go to heaven for the length of one cycle of creation. Let's look at these two possibilities. If you have accumulated a lot of punya karma, that punya karma can take you to some heavenly realm, swarga. But now, the punya karma that took you to swarga is finite and not infinite, which means as you enjoy your life in heaven, your punya karma is being exhausted, and when that finite punya karma is finally exhausted, your length of time dwelling in that heavenly domain comes to an end. Now, there's another possibility. Suppose someone does an extraordinary amount of punya karma, an extraordinary amount of Vedic ritual, an extraordinary amount of devata upasana. We talked about in the last class these complicated meditations on various forms of God, which are meant to gain spiritual power and gain better rebirth. Those were the two things we talked about in the last class, ritual and those meditations. Well, suppose someone has managed to do an extraordinary amount of ritual and meditation. Extraordinary means it's pretty much the only thing they've done their whole lifetime is ritual and meditation. A life of intense piety, more religious, more focused on religious practice than anyone else you can think of. Notice I said religious practice and not spiritual practice. We want to differentiate these two. So this is a very pious, religious activity, the performance of all these rituals and meditations. Well, if the ritual and meditation is sufficient, you can reach the best case scenario by that northern path. So Supata, already you're on the northern path, but on the northern path there's a range. So at the low end of the range, you get to enjoy heaven for a while, and then you get reborn. But at the top of the range is Brahmaloka, the highest of the heavens. Suppose you reach Brahmaloka. Now, it's considered that if you reach Brahmaloka, it is eternal in the sense that you will be in Brahmaloka till the end of time, till the end of this cycle of the universe. But now there's something unusual. And again, this is part of mythology. This is not a Vedantic teaching, but rather part of the mythology that we find in Puranas and elsewhere. It is believed that if you are in Brahmaloka at the end of time, when the universe comes to an end, you are liberated. They call this krama mukti, gradual liberation. Generally, we understand moksha as a result of gaining knowledge, spiritual wisdom, something that you get in this life. So when you get knowledge in this life, you then have jivan mukti, which means you're liberated while you're alive. And then when you're dead, when you give up this particular body, then you have videha mukti, which means liberation in the absence of the body. So if you get knowledge in this life, you have jivan mukti. Then when this life comes to an end, you have videha mukti. But now we're talking about a third kind. Jivan mukti, liberated while alive. Videha mukti, liberated when your body falls. But now the term is introduced, krama mukti, a step-by-step, so to speak, liberation. Krama mukti specifically refers to having reached Brahmaloka. When the universe comes to an end, you are liberated. Now, Vedantins balk at that, especially Advaitins get very upset. Wait a minute. Jnanameva mokshaha. Shankara says, no, you can only get liberated by gaining knowledge. So Vedantins make up an explanation for this. This drives me nuts, but this is what they say. So if you get to Brahmaloka, you got to Brahmaloka by virtue of your rituals and meditation, right? So technically, according to Advaita Vedanta, rituals and meditation cannot make you liberated. But yet we have this doctrine of krama mukti that says if you get to Brahmaloka due to sufficient rituals and meditation, you can gain krama mukti. But then you say, you mean I don't need knowledge? And the Vedantin answers, no, you need knowledge. The way it happens is when you're in Brahmaloka, Brahmaji himself teaches you Vedanta. To me, this is such a silly explanation, but it's a traditional explanation and is given in all seriousness by great teachers of Vedanta. And it's meant to reconcile the teachings of Advaita Vedanta with this mythological belief in krama mukti and liberation of having achieved Brahmaloka. I think this discussion gets a little silly for two reasons. One is it's nothing that we can exactly test or find out or discover for ourselves. It's purely a matter of belief. But more importantly, if someone were to create an argument that I could get ritual without study, I could get enlightenment, moksha, without studying any Vedanta, without trying to understand the truth of myself, without trying to understand the truth of the universe, without trying to understand the relationship between the two, without understanding Mahavakya like Tattvamasi, without any of that understanding, I could remain as ignorant as a clod of earth. But if I do a sufficient number of rituals and meditations, I can make it to Brahmaloka and get krama mukti. This is the argument. If someone makes an argument such as that, to me it looks absolutely silly because if you're a practical person, gaining Brahma-jnanam is a whole lot easier than the massive amount of ritual and meditation you'd have to do to gain Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka is the highest of all possible heavens. How many rituals do you think you'd have to do to reach Brahmaloka? How many meditations do you think you'd have to do to reach? An ordinary person in a lifetime could not do enough ritual and meditation to reach Brahmaloka. An extraordinary person with an extraordinary effort and with extraordinarily good karmas from past lives, maybe, with a lifetime of rituals, every day, every hour, 24/7, virtually, a life of meditation and ritual, perhaps, maybe, they could reach Brahmaloka. Does that sound like a doable goal, as it were? Doesn't Brahma Vidya seem much easier than Krama Mukti via going to Brahmaloka? So this is a Vedantic discussion on this concept of Krama Mukti. In Advaita Vedanta, it's not much of a topic. Outside of Vedanta, you can find quite a bit of discussion about getting to Brahmaloka and getting liberated from Brahmaloka. But again, it's another belief system. And something that is so unique about these teachings of Advaita Vedanta is there's nothing to believe. You get to discover for yourself in this very lifetime, you get to discover the truth of who you are, being non-separate from Brahman. You get to verify in this life the truth of Vedanta. You have the opportunity to gain moksha in this life. It's not a matter of belief. It's available to all. So something that's so remarkable about the teachings of Advaita Vedanta, not based on any particular belief system, has nothing to do with this Uttarayana and Dakshinayana, nothing to do with Brahmaloka or any other loka. It all has to do with gaining knowledge of reality, knowledge of the truth of yourself, knowledge of the truth of the cosmos. So, now we'll finish up our text. So in the very last verse, he prays, Agne, O Agni, Naya Asman, lead me, Raye, lead me unto enjoyment of the fruits of all of my actions, Supata, by the good path, by the Uttarayana, and not merely the Uttarayana, lead me by the highest path that will lead me to Brahmaloka, so that in Brahmaloka I can then be liberated at the end of the cycle of creation. Deva, O God, Vidwani, Vayunani, Vidwan. Vidwan, you are the knower of Vayunani, actions. Vishwani, all actions. You are the knower of all actions. You are the one, in modern Vedanta we would say karma paladata. You are the giver of the fruits of all actions. That's not what it says. It says you are the knower of all actions, but in the sense that all of my past actions, so this person is praying at the time of death, O Agni, lead me by the good path to the highest heaven so that I can enjoy the fruits of my actions. You know all of my actions. You know all of my accumulated karma. You are the repository, as it were, of all my accumulated karma. And that leads us to the last half of the final verse. Yuyodhyasmaj, Yuyodhyasmaj, Juhuraya menho, Juhurana menho, Bhuyashtam te, Bhuyashtam te, Namahuktim vidhema, Namahuktim vidhema. So the prayer concludes, Yuyodhi asmat juhuranam enas, enaha. Yuyodhi, destroy. Destroy what? Enas, sin. Destroy any sin that I may have. To get to Brahmaloka, if you have an accumulation of an incredible amount of punya karma, it's possible that one papa karma could be all it takes to deny you entry to Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka is held to be such a rarefied realm, such an exclusive realm that can be attained by almost no one, that perhaps even one sin would deny this person entry into that highest heaven. So therefore he prays, Yuyodhi, please destroy asmat enas. Please destroy asmat, from me, ena, the sin. Please destroy the sin caused by me, the sin which is juhuranam, literally crooked in an ethical sense, the deceptive. So please destroy my deceptive sins. Again, even one sin could deny this person entry into Brahmaloka, and his prayer concludes, Bhuyishtam te nama uktim vidhema. Te, unto you, vidhema, we offer uktim, nama uktim. We offer many uktis, many declarations. What kind of declarations? Namaha, salutations. We offer vidhema, we offer uktim, declarations of nama, of salutations, te, unto you. How many declarations? Bhuyashtam, many, many. We offer many, many declarations of namaha, of salutations unto you. Salutations again and again and again and again and again is the idea. And with this he ends his prayer. This is the prayer of one who's devoted his life to ritual and meditation. Don't you think he's doing things the hard way? At the beginning of the text, it said, if you renounce all of these activities, including Vedic rituals, Remember our discussion before. Vedic rituals, we understand, were meant to gain concrete pleasures in this life and the next life. In a sense, those Vedic rituals were very worldly minded. They were meant for enjoyments in this life, enjoyments in the next life. So at the very beginning of the text, we're told, if you renounce all of that which concerns worldly life, you will have the opportunity to discover that Ishvara who pervades the universe. That's the very first line of the text. That Ishvara who pervades the universe can be discovered by you. Isha vasyam idam sarvam. All of this universe, which is pervaded by Ishvara, can be discovered by you. How? Tena tyaktena. By renunciation. Not by more rituals, not by more esoteric meditations, but by renunciation, in the sense of renunciation of worldly activities, so that you can focus on gaining truth, gaining spiritual wisdom, jnanam, knowledge of the truth of yourself, knowledge of the truth of the cosmos. And this Upanishad opened with Om Purnamada. It also closes with Om Purnamada. We'll chant now. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. That concludes our study of Isha, Upanishad. I have some closing comments to share with you, now that we've seen the entire Upanishad brief. You've probably observed that this was not a particularly Advaitic Upanishad. A lot of it dealt with, the whole last section dealt with ritual and meditation. A lot of it was focused on meditation and ritual. Of course, we shouldn't be surprised, as we've commented several times. This is one of the few Upanishads, Samhita Upanishad. It occurs in the Samhita, occurs along with all the Vedic hymns, which means it occurs where all the rituals are being described. So this Upanishad uniquely exists in the exists in the Veda side by side with all these descriptions of ritual. And it's so remarkable that the Veda itself, the same Veda that prescribes all these rituals and meditation, the same Veda criticizes all these rituals and meditations. Now, just to make sure this remains relevant to us, you may be thinking, but Swamiji, we don't do all these rituals and obscure meditations in modern times. Then we can look at the modern equivalent. The modern equivalent is a pious Hindu who celebrates, say, Janmashtami in a very elaborate way, celebrates Deepavali in an elaborate way, celebrates Ganesha Chaturthi in an elaborate way, goes to the mandir every week, says a lot of prayers, puts money in the hundi. In other words, lives a pious life. Or more, this is more your parents' generation, doing several hours of puja every morning. In modern times, that seems to be rapidly on the wane. But up until fairly recent times, not uncommon, hours and hours and hours of daily puja. So if we were to examine that kind of pious life, very pious life, how many Hindus today live that kind of pious life? To celebrate festivals very elaborately, to go to temples very often, to do hours of puja every morning. There are relatively few Hindus in India, what to speak of this country, who live such a life of piety. The point, if we look at that life of intense piety through the eyes of this Upanishad, we can say very clearly that that life of piety is not enough. It's not, in the eyes of this Upanishad, it's not enough to be pious. And we see that vividly and sadly in too many examples. So, an example I've given in several classes is someone who spends 3 hours each morning doing her puja, and when she comes out of the puja room, watch out, she's in such a bad mood, she'll bite your head off. That happens a lot. So tell me, how is it that a lifetime of doing elaborate pujas can't even make her into a pleasant person, much less make her enlightened? That's the point. There's a real beauty, of course, in a pious life. This is not meant to criticize that kind of pious life. That's not the point at all. The point is not to criticize it, but to recognize its limitations. In the same way in the Veda, it's not really criticizing the rituals, but rather pointing out the limitations of doing those rituals and meditations, which is why in Advaita Vedanta we put so much focus on gaining spiritual knowledge. And of course, in order to gain that spiritual knowledge, we know that bhakti is also helpful and necessary, that meditation is helpful and necessary, that many other sadhanas, karma yoga, is helpful and necessary. Perhaps even doing puja is helpful and necessary. But the ultimate goal, we understand, is gaining moksha through spiritual wisdom, discovering the truth of yourself, being non-separate from the truth of all. So this is the orientation of Vedanta. Notice this Upanishad is not, now to complete that thought, this Upanishad is not particularly in that Advaita path. So why was it chosen? For two reasons. One is it shows very nicely the limitations of the pious life, but Shankaracharya himself chose this Upanishad to write commentary on. He only chose 10 Upanishads. There are over 100 Upanishads. Sri Shankaracharya chose this one. Why? For all the answers we just said. Even though it doesn't spend much time on the vision of Vedanta, it unfolds a very important truth. Ritual, meditation, pious life is not enough. As Shankara says, jnanam eva moksha. Now, when we meet next time, then we'll start our next Upanishad, which is Kaivalya Upanishad, which is a very Advaitic Upanishad, unlike Isha Upanishad. We'll get a lot of pure Vedanta. We also get a few very odd things going on in there, but mostly it's just pure Vedanta. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it very much. It's already posted on our website, so you can go and you can get the slides and print them out. This one also has been corrected. If you didn't get a copy of this, it's also on our website. You can print it out with the swetas as shown. So when we meet next time, then we'll begin our study of Kaivalya Upanishad, and then we will, after Kaivalya, it'll take a while, and then our next Upanishad after that will be the Mandukya Upanishad. These are all very short, but even though they're short, this is just 18 verses. We spent 2 months going through these 18 verses, so we're not in a hurry, so even these short Upanishads will take some time. So we'll proceed then when we meet next time, and we'll finish with our closing prayers. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.